With Marvel Rivals being released for almost a month, it came with 33 heroes that are free to play on launch. Now each of those heroes have different abilities and playstyle, but today we are going to rank them all as we get closer to the launch of Season 1. Just as a reminder, all of the opinions expressed in this video are exclusively my own, and if you would like to state your opinions, comment them down below. And while you're down there, why don't you like and subscribe, because it's free and helps out a ton. Now, over to the tier list. Our first hero, we have the Black Panther. He's a really good dive duelist, and if you can utilize his dashes and spears correctly, he's really great. I'm going to put him in B tier just because he has a bit of a learning curve to get to. Next, we have Magneto. Magneto is a really good tank, with his shield being similar to Doctor Strange's, but kind of different, in the sense that it has a cooldown and infinite health, meaning you can't pop it up at any time like Doctor Strange's to block him up. And so he's not as good as Doctor Strange, who will be a lot higher on the list, but we have to wait for that. But he's definitely good enough to be B tier. Now Mantis is one of the best healers in the game, and also one of the best heroes. During the open and closed beta test, she had the highest win rate out of almost any hero. And she's really great at boosting and healing in her team, and her ultimate can help make or break a team fight. And for that, she's going in A tier. Next is Namor. Recently, a lot of light has been shed onto Namor about how good of a hero he is, and they are right. His turrets can help pick off the enemy team from behind, and if you can use his secondary trident ability that locks them onto a specific hero to pick them off, it'll be really good, and he is definitely a high B tier. Next is Penny Parker, or Spider-Bot, I think is what she's called. And she is a really good tank, and she's also a trapper tank. With her spider nest and mines, which can be used to lay traps and help hold an objective. She's really good, and she is going to be our second A tier. Now next is Rocket Raccoon. He's one of the more weaker healers in the game, but what he focuses on is not damage or healing, but helping keep your teammates alive. But instead of healing them, he literally brings them back from the dead, with his healing orbs just bouncing around, doing healing damage, and his BRB device helping to bring back a teammate. Like if your secondary healer dies or your tank dies, bringing them back can be really useful, and so that he's also going to be. Now next is the Scarlet Witch. She's a very easy character to play and learn, with auto aim and a really nice escape, but she's mainly known for her massive team wiping ultimate, and that can be really useful if paired with Doctor Strange's portals, and for that she's going to be our third A tier. And the next is Spider-Man. Spider-Man is called one of the hardest heroes to learn in the game. His combos and web swinging are hard to get used to, but if you can do it and land them correctly, he's great. So that's why he is going to be our first, no, not A tier, our first S tier of the ranking. Just as a quick announcement, most of the heroes are going to be B tier. But again, if I misplaced your favorite hero, tell me in the comments below, and maybe I'll shout you out. Now next is Star-Lord. Star-Lord is one of the better duelists in the game, being able to deal consistent damage, and also his dash ability gives him a few seconds of invincible frames, which allow him to escape certain ultimates like Jeff's and the Scarlet Witches. So he's also gonna go in A tier. Now Storm is not really good at what she does, and being a duelist, your main goal is to deal damage, but she doesn't do that really well. And in ranked matches, you'll be lucky to see a Storm, and she just doesn't do enough damage besides from her ultimate. But I'm gonna have to put her in C tier. Now next is Punisher. Punisher is a really great damage dealer with his shotgun, his rifle, and his turret. And don't even get me started on his ultimate, which can just wipe teams. He is definitely going in B tier. Now Doctor Strange, as I said earlier, has a shield similar to Magneto's, but unlike Magneto's, his has an 800 point health pool, which and this is just amazing. He is one of the best tanks in the game, so he goes in S tier along with Spider-Man. Next is Thor. Thor is really great at dealing damage and absorbing it, and he can be a useful tank to have in your front line. Well, if you paired with good healers, he can be really good. So he's gonna go in A tier. The next is Venom. Venom is considered to be one of the easiest tanks in the game. It's with his symbiote resilience and web swinging, and I don't really have a lot to say about him, but he's going into B tier. Now next is Adam Warlock. He's a great healer, and if you can manage to use his streams and soul bonds and ultimate properly, he can be really good. So he's going to be our first S tier strategist. The next is Jeff the Shark. Now, if this was this was just about how much a character was good, Jeff the Shark would be beyond A tier and S tier. But unfortunately, this tier maker does not have an S tier plus. So I'm gonna have to rank him like I normally would. Jeff is a great healer, and he's very squishy, and he has a really great escape with his hide and seek dive. His healing stream has infinite range. It can heal your teammates from far away, and his bubble packs allow you to literally put a health pack / speed boost on the map, and it's really useful. So I'm gonna have to put him in A tier. Now next is Magic. Magic is a great damage dealer, but unfortunately I think she personally needs a damage boost. But even without that, she can deal massive damage to your squishies and healers, and when she goes into her Darkchild form, she's definitely raging war on everybody around her. So she is gonna go in B tier. Now for Captain America, he personally to me is one of the more weaker tanks in the game. Like, he just doesn't feel like his punches and throws do enough damage, and his sprint is useful for getting back, but his whole gimmick is that he can reflect bullets, and I don't really feel like that's good enough. So I'm gonna have to put him in a C tier. Now next is his counterpart, the Winter Soldier, and he's a really great. His combos and damage are really useful, so he's gonna go in A tier. Now Psylocke's gonna join him in A tier. She is great at getting behind the enemy line and dealing damage to their healers, picking them off one by one, and she's just super useful for that. Now for Moon Knight's also good in going in A tier for picking off healers, and he can be really useful to play if you need to deal AoE damage with his onks. Now Hawkeye is gonna go in B tier, and that's because if you have good aim, Hawkeye's a really great character to play. But if you don't, you can't really take full control of his passive. But if you can and line up his passive perfectly, it's just amazing. Squirrel Girl is one of the easiest duelists to play in the game. With her Acorn Ricochet bombs, she can pretty much just click and shoot and deal damage. Her ultimate is also similar, with just her sending it out and it going chaotic everywhere. So she's also gonna go in B tier. Now Groot, he's gonna go in B tier. When I play Groot, I feel big, really feel like a walking big tree, which is great, but it also is really bad in playing this fast, high-stakes game that can go anywhere. Now for Iron Fist, I'm gonna put him into S tier, and because he's great at what he does, and what he does is punch the ever-loving Thanksgiving dinner out of people. When he activates his ultimate, you're dead. There's no doubt about that, unless you're a tank or Doctor Strange. Now for Black Widow, a piece of advice for playing Black Widow, the best advice I've ever heard. If you're playing Black Widow, play Hela instead. Unfortunately, to me, Black Widow is going in B tier. She doesn't feel like she does enough damage. And yeah, next is Cloak and Dagger. They're gonna go into B tier. They're very simple to play and easy, with both of them having lock-on abilities. And Dagger is a great healer. Now for Wolverine's gonna go in C tier, just because it doesn't feel like he does enough consistent damage. His regenerative factor is really nice, but it just doesn't feel like it helps enough. Now Hela is gonna go into A tier. Her hit scan spears are really useful, especially with all of her other abilities that can be used to just deal damage. Now Bruce Banner, or the Hulk, he's gonna go into B tier. His whole gimmick is just absorbing damage with his shields, turning into the Hulk, but it also doesn't feel like he does enough damage. When you think of the Hulk, you think of dealing damage like punching. Yeah. Next is Iron Man. Iron Man is gonna go into B tier as well. He's really useful as what he does, and when you partner him with the Hulk for that damage boost on his override mode, it's really useful. Now for our last two strategists, they're both going in A tier. Sorry about that. Both going in A tier because they're both pretty similar. For both of their primary fires, they both deal and hit damage. But Loki, with his runes and his clones, he's really good at dealing damage from like across the map. And for Luna Snow, she's really good at dealing damage on a single target and keeping tanks alive. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, and if I unfortunately misranked your favorite hero, go down and tell me about it in comments, and I will see you on the flip side.